about similar age, maybe a few years younger. He's been very passionate about working with people in Guatemala. You may notice he's Guatemalan. Fantastic young man. His dad was in the military. His dad felt very passionate about a Christian calling to being a servant leader and working with other people. And Herbert runs a number of NGOs and basically dedicated his life as kind of a technical expert with the level of a high school education of working with other people. And there's two things that I want to leave you with in terms of kind of words to look up or things to think about when you're working with these phenomenal leaders in other countries. Two things to think about: social entrepreneurship and design thinking. If you're looking for kind of organizations to Google and learn about for social entrepreneurship, look up Ashoka Changemakers. And for design thinking, look up the company IDEO, I-D-E-O, out in Palo Alto. But the idea of social entrepreneurship is that we don't just measure the bottom line of money, we also look at the bottom line of our human capacity and our trust relationships. When I'm explaining to my students how we go into other countries to work, I explain we have 2 eyes and 2 ears and a mouth and a couple of hands, and I always say, close your mouth, open your eyes, open your ears, put your hands in your pockets, and watch and listen and learn, and then maybe you'll have an opportunity to be able to partner with somebody. You notice nowhere in that description did I say we went to help. We don't take that kind of self-centered ego approach to it. Social entrepreneurship is about looking at the trust relationships and the human capacity in addition to the money. Design thinking. You might find this kind of an interesting way to describe design, where you're focusing on the empathy for the context of a problem. Empathy, this is something that you think about at the profession of nursing, not the profession of engineering. I've learned a lot from my wife, who's a nurse, who's taught me tremendous amounts about what it is to be an empathetic listener. For all you gentlemen out there, I would encourage you to be empathetic listeners to your wives. It's certainly a helpful way to end a busy day. Creativity in the generation of insights and solutions, and rationality in analyzing and fitting various solutions to the problem context. Those are some good rules to live by when you're going to try to solve complex problems. So let's look at where we were working, Ichcan, Guatemala. It's the northernmost municipality. Think about that as a county. In the Quiché district, think about that as a state, within Guatemala. There's about 176 communities there, and it's got a total population of about 70,000. So for all of you that work day-to-day in a consulting practice, you'd say 70,000 people, no big deal. We'll just whip something together, some turnkey thing, poof, there's water, we're good to go. We had to go house by house, community by community, working with folks. The region has a very storied history. Folks thought there was oil there. Folks thought that the Mayan dialect indigenous people didn't like the central Spanish-speaking government. People thought that there was forest that they could be able to harvest. So the indigenous people were battered around in the Guatemalan Civil War. Many were displaced, some got to come back. And when they decided, hey wait, we've got an area where it turns out there's not as much oil or not as much timber, they resettled indigenous Mayan-speaking people back there into these 176 communities. So you can literally go from one community to the next, and the two people groups are speaking an entirely different Mayan dialect. It's like they're speaking two different languages. All of this in the country of Guatemala. Sanitary surveys conducted by the health department and then reconfirmed by our own observation is that about 75% of the population had access to improved sources of drinking water, as opposed to 93% for the country. 75% puts you down somewhere like around a country in sub-Saharan Africa or Bangladesh, or someplace where we think about it being a real problem. So what was one of the solutions that we explored? Well, one was the biosand filter. This was